The Oakland Athletics had an extremely rough season, to say the least, last year. 50 and 112 was their record, the worst record in baseball. But could things be looking up for Oakland? Who knows? Maybe. They do have some young players coming in, so you never know. But I would think to say expectations aren't super, super high for Oakland, considering the whole situation surrounding their team. But regardless, we're going to take a look at this Oakland roster, tell you what we think about it, who are the key players, what offseason moves they made, and the expectations for 2024. So without any time wasting any time, let's dive straight into it. My name is Derek. I am here with Pat. You are watching Bleacher, Brawls, and this is the Oakland Athletics team profile. So first things first, when you talk about Oakland, I think the thing that needs to be needs to come first is the key players. As always, we always do key players first, but I think this is what needs to go first because you look at this team and there's no star. There's no stand out, this guy is the most important. There is kind of okay, who are we going with? So I'll hand it over to Pat. Typically we list 3 key players and then we talk about one of them. But I don't know if you want to name 3. I don't know if you can name 3. This is a team that it's I normally write down 5 or 6 players. I only got 4 down because I'm I don't really know, go past that. But what do you have, Pat?
I do think I'm going to differ a little bit and say I think that they have some guys. It's just, in fact, they have some guys to the point that I'm sort of surprised that they've lost that many games. Esteury Ruiz stole 60-something bases last year. Brent Rooker hit 30 home runs. These are legit numbers. These are guys, and so it really falls off after them. The guy I want to highlight is Zach Geloff. I think I've been high on him for a while. In fact, I was saying in 22 that team was so directionless that they might have called him up even after just half a season of minor league experience because he's that kind of guy. I think I was proven semi-right this past year. He played in 69 games, and he hit 14 home runs. You make that a full season. He's a 30 home run guy at second base. That's pretty legit. I think he's the kind of guy that, clearly, they have a ballpark in what is it, 3 or 4 years from now. This is a team that's going to try and build up to be really good in 3 or 4 years. They're going to try and be, I would assume, premier on opening day in this new ballpark and be a legitimate organization then. And I think that Geloff, Ruiz, these are guys that they have under control for a while, that they're going to want to, they just got to keep them happy, really, and try to keep them in town. We're not the NBA guys, don't just decide where they get to go play, but they definitely need to keep these guys, looking ahead constantly because they do have talent.
Yeah, they do. They definitely have talent. I'll talk, Shaving Lear is another guy who's very solid. Ryan Noda had a solid year last year. Kind of more of an OBP guy in terms of not the highest batting average. Last year 229 average, but a 364 on base. Feels a little bit Mark Canha-ish considering the stat numbers Mark Canha would have when he was back in Oakland. He hit 240 and he had a 360, 370 on base. It feels somewhat similar. But I do want to talk about Esteury Ruiz just because the trade, it was the Sean Murphy trade, and it was the 3-team trade that brought in Esteury Ruiz as the lead piece back to Oakland in the Sean Murphy trade. And I think going back, I think that was the thing where a lot of people went, what? That's all you're getting? And Esteury Ruiz, don't get me wrong, he's got a long way to go. Last year he hit 254, just a 309 on base. He had an 86 weighted runs created plus. He only walked 4% of the time, right? So he's not getting on base a lot. But even with the fact he only played 132 games, less than 500 plate appearances, doesn't get on base a ton, he still stole 67 bases. He plays a full year and gets on base even a little bit more. You're looking at a guy who might be stealing 80, 85 bases, which is insane. Heck, who knows? Gets on base a lot. Maybe does he push 100, right? Maybe it's a special year he pushes 100, right? I think that's a guy where he has a legitimate weapon, but he's going to get on base to use it. If he can get on base, I think he becomes really interesting, especially in this new game of, shortened of the bigger bases and the pickoff rules and whatnot and all that stuff. And I think they're also bringing in the lefty rule, the lefty has to now step off the rubber to throw over to first. I don't know if that's coming in this season or that's going to be coming in at some point, but I know there's been talk of it at some point coming in. So, like, that comes in, that's only going to help base stealers more. So I think Esteury Ruiz is kind of the interesting one. Although defensively, it was extremely rough last year in terms of defensive metrics. Just over 1,000 innings in the outfield, most of them in center field, 875 of them in center field. He did have 2 outs above average. He also had negative 20 defensive runs saved. So
he's fast, and that's it. He's
kinda,
fast.
yeah, exactly. But like you can kind of see the picture. Like it's like, okay, if this guy can, get the defense under control and whatnot, and he can get on base a little bit more, like there's a little bit of a weapon there. Is he gonna be a great player? Probably not, but like you have a little bit of a weapon there, right? That not a lot of teams have. There aren't a lot of guys like that. So I think he's interesting, and that's why I did want to talk about, because I think he is very interesting. I don't think he's ever going to be a star, but I think he'd be a solid player and be a type of guy that not a lot of teams have. But let's get to offseason moves, because there's not a ton, right? It's like they signed Alex Wood. They traded for Ross Stripling. They also traded for Abraham Toro, and then it's like they claimed Miguel Andujar off of waivers. The biggest offseason move, I think, is that like the MLB owners unanimously approved their move to Las Vegas. What's the offseason move that we're talking about? Like, I'll go to you, Pat. I know what I have, but I'll go to you. I want to see what your thoughts is on their offseason.
I mean, I think you pretty much summed it up. I mean, they're not going to go out and sign any premier names. I will say Andujar should be better than he is. he always should have been better than he was. And so I wouldn't be completely surprised if a guy like him goes to Oakland, 0 expectations, and then at that point, with the talent that he's always had, just plays well for maybe the first time in his career. That wouldn't surprise me. He could be kind of one of those diamond in the rough kind of pickups. But otherwise, it's just a kind of plug and play right now.
Yeah, so last year he was solid. He had, 30 MLB games last year with Pittsburgh. 105 weighted runs created plus. Small sample says 135 weighted runs created plus in about 100 AAA games. So, 103 AAA games last year. So, solid, right?
I also should say he had that good year in New York. It would be the first year since then that he's played
2018.
Well. Which, yeah.
That is a long time ago, but like...
was a long time ago.
But
he was good.
He does have talent. Like, it's obvious. Like, you don't have a year like that and be a terrible baseball player. Like, you have talent, right? It's just, can that talent be unlocked? My biggest move for Oakland, I think the most important move for them, was the draft lottery and them dropping from 1 to 4 in the draft lottery. I think that's a massive loss. Because you pick first in the draft, you get to pick out of everyone. You get to pick whether you want the best guy, whether you maybe want to save a little bit of money. The whole board is available. You drop down the 4th, and now it's like you're probably missing on the top 3 guys. And depending on the draft year and whatnot, or how the draft ends up panning out, you might, if you miss out on the top 3, it could be curtains for your draft, especially in their top. Sometimes it's like top 3 and that's it, right? Not always, but that could be, a thing that bothers them, I think. But like, what do you look at the offseason moves? Like, I don't really want to talk about signing Alex Wood, because it's like, you're the Oakland A's. You're probably just going to move him at the deadline for like a low-level prospect, and like that's it. So I think the draft lottery was kind of like the biggest thing that happened for them this offseason, and the fact that they had the best odds for the number 1 pick, were the worst team, and then they fell to 4. I think they literally could not have fallen further. So I don't think. They could have fallen all the way to like 7, but like realistically, it would have needed a miracle for them to fall to 7, and a miracle in a not a good way. So that's my pick for their kind of key off-season move, which had nothing to do with anything they did. It was just luck of the draw. Expectations for 2024. My expectations for 2024 for them include tanking and trying to win the draft lottery. The only thing I didn't check is I don't know if they're eligible for the draft lottery. So that's something I will have to check in on at some point. So I'm not 100% on that information, but that's what I put. And also developing young talent, but like, is there anything, like, how much is there for them to really, like, they're not going to win the World Series next year.
They've got a front office question. They've got an ownership question. The front office question is we need to figure out who these future superstars might be. I think they could have these guys. I mean, you're talking Ricky Henderson numbers for Ruiz. That's nothing to shy away from. Guys that you need to keep around for a while. Continue to develop talent, get good draft picks, and then on the ownership side, they need a ballpark. After this year, they don't have a place to play until Las Vegas opens up, and they're talking about playing at the AAA park in Las Vegas, or potentially splitting the park in San Francisco with the Giants. So that's you could be a huge thing hanging over their head. This is absolutely going to be their last year in the Coliseum because the city of Oakland is not going to extend them a temporary lease. They are done with them, as are many fans, and it might be that way for the next couple of years, but I think it's about looking ahead 3-4 years down the line.
Yes, and sell the team, please. We stand with you, Oakland fans. I kind of gotta agree. So I don't really have a ton to add to that, honestly. So I think that's a great place to kind of wrap it up. Make sure to check out all our other team profiles that we've done. Although this is the first one, so actually you gotta wait, but they'll be coming out every day. So if you are watching this after the fact it comes out, a little bit, further on in the future, check out all our other ones. If not, if you're watching it the day it comes out, wait, tune in. This is part of our 40 videos in 40 days, so they'll be coming out just about every single day, with the exception of Thursdays. So make sure to check them all out. For Pat, my name's Derek. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls, and we will see you next time.